Sure, but I just hit live.
Oh. Hey everyone, my name is Beth and I'm the founder of Fit2B and the creator of the Experts in Diastasis course and over 200 tummy safe workouts online through fit2b.com. And joining me today is Hannah Williams. She is a fellow yoga instructor and diastasis geek. And today her and I are just going to kind of nerd out together and talk about ramifications of diastasis in yoga and her experience with teaching to that and also her experience with surgery for diastasis. So we're going to do our best to keep this particular live chat right around 30 to 45 minutes for you. I have to do that for myself. Otherwise, I run a little bit long. So let's just start by letting Hannah talk for a little bit and tell us, Hannah, a little bit about yourself and your background.
I am a mama, of course. I have two girls. I am a small framed person and had two giant, enormous babies. I don't know how I grew such big babies. I've been teaching yoga since 2007. I started my teacher training in January, and then at the tail end of my training, I got pregnant with baby number one, and so I dove right into prenatal yoga. And I love flow. I love to teach regular people too, not only mamas, but that's my specialty. I just have a sweet space in my heart for the moms and new moms, pregnant moms. And then this, I teach from my own experience a lot, and my own diastasis and struggles with it has helped me to kind of tap into a whole new area of what I'm passionate about. And I think I just take my own experiences and I want to share that because I also had a huge pelvic floor tear. So I'm passionate about all of that stuff and how to cope with it and then how to fix it on the other end.
Yeah. And, you and I probably realize now how incredible it is to have information like this. But before we had this information and we're kind of operating under the generally accepted principle that you're just going to have babies and deal with it. You're going to have a lot of pain and you're going to have scar tissue and you're probably going to wet your pants a lot and you're going to have this gap in your belly. And hey, that's just part of motherhood. That's just part of the sacrifice for your kids. And I literally started Fit2B kind of from that angle of like, okay, look, hey moms, you know what? We're all a hot mess. Let's be a hot mess together. I'm not here to be perfect. That resonated with people. But then I started learning more. I mean, I started Fit2B like right when some of this information was first coming out 7 years ago. And it really impacted how I teach. My first question is like, when you first learned that you had this, how did it impact your practice?
It was a drag.
Because you're like, what do I do?
I was really bummed because after you go through your pregnancy, you modify through pregnancy, all you want to do is get your body back on the other end. And then all of a sudden I find out about this and all the modifications that I have to do. And I really wasn't happy about it. I couldn't back bend. I couldn't really twist. I couldn't do plank. I felt like, what can I do? And then I started.
Because those are huge parts of yoga.
Yeah. And I don't even remember how I found your website, maybe just kind of poking around and searching on Google. But it helped me a lot. I watched your first, your free video at first and some of the transverse work that you do standing up with the legs. I would be pushing my baby in the swing and doing the leg, the leg work.
Yeah. Hey, way to integrate.
And I did a lot of the videos and then I tried to do some more hardcore working out and I made it a lot worse for myself. And I kind of teetered back and forth between I'm going to heal this and I'm going to follow all the rules. And then I would do that for several months. And then I would get really frustrated and annoyed. And I'd say, forget the rules. I'm fine. I'm going to be fine. This is going to be fine. And I would just ignore it. And then I would notice that, my body would get more toned and I would fit into my jeans better, but my stomach was still sticking out and more poochy than before. So I saw a friend who's a yoga therapist who helped me with it. I saw another specialist for it. I wore a band. I didn't wear a band. I just tried everything.
Yeah. You know what? And you're so not alone. And I love what Brianna Battles says. She has a Facebook page called Everyday Battles. And she talks about the female athlete brain. and how we really struggle specifically with this, those of us who are kind of this competitive type A, I want to look and feel good and go hard or go home. There's a lot to it, and I'm not doing what she says justice. But that whole mentality of, okay, look, I know I have this, but for good grief, at what point do I just go and just move and get the rest of my body in shape, even though this one part's not functioning right? Like, I can't keep slowing down just because of this one part. And so, Fit2B exists to show people, okay, yeah, you know what, you can progress while honoring this part. But a lot of people still get stuck in that fear of, I'm afraid to move forward. I field questions like that all the time. How did Fit2B help your journey during that time?
Learning all the ways that I could modify. So doing all of the workouts, I would do 2 or 3 of them a day, sometimes just one, but I just loved learning tummy safe things to do. And then when I felt like I had done that enough and I wanted to try new things, I knew how to modify. So I had done some of the P90X type of things, and I would, they'd be holding a plank and I would get on my back and make my shins parallel to the floor. And then I would just press, do little chest presses instead of holding a plank. And I just, Fit2B helped me exercise in a tummy safe way and then bring that to the other areas in my life.
I wish that I had been further along in my journey with really understanding more mainstream yoga stuff, even a few years ago, because what I know now, like last year I spent a year and took myself through a full-on 200-hour thing. Whereas before I had always approached yoga from my exercise and sports science degree, and I had been mentored and I had looked at all the books, but I was approaching it from a stance of cherry picking what was safe for core dysfunction. I wasn't approaching it from, okay, here is classic yoga style, and how do I take the classic yoga style and maybe modify the breathing and modify the transitions as a whole, so that people really can go into, they can go from Fit2B and then into a yoga studio and know how to go through Surya Namaskara, sun salutations, and change the breathing to suit their needs. But I didn't feel like I had permission to do that. I mean, yoga is like, it's a time-honored tradition. It has a lot of tradition.
Yeah.
And I felt like, who am I to come in and mess with that? But yet I have so many members like you who are like, you really want the yoga piece and you want to understand that part of it, and realizing I really need to serve that need. And so this coming year, part of the class I took last year is I had to write 10 classes, hour-long sequences. And the lead instructor knows my background, and I was actually contributing to the course. I actually led a whole weekend of diastasis awareness in this training. But I was also there to learn myself about all the other stuff. And so I've got these 10 routines that I'm going to be filming over the next year that really would segue nicely for members who are wanting to go back into a studio, and also great for yoga instructors like yourself to just learn that much more. And I get messages from yoga and Pilates and kettlebell trainers all the time. Well, do you have a course? And I'm like, do my workouts, take what you want from those and adapt those. And one day I might come out with a full training, but I'm not really in that headspace yet.
One step at a time.
Right? So, we talked about how you had surgery and how you tried all the things. And, we say, like, it used to be that every woman with this was told, you just get surgery. That's the only thing that can fix it. And over the past 10 years, there's been a shift to, well, maybe you don't need surgery. And there's other things you should try first. But about one, like Kelly says, she's like about 1 in every 100-ish that she sees. They still, like, they do all the things and then they still need or opt for the surgery, whether that's because of quality of life is being affected and they just feel like they can't move on until this is addressed, similar to where you're at. But also sometimes cores don't, there's so much going on. It's like, it's best to do some rehab, then surgery, then more rehab, and then that gives the jump that's needed. So like, what my question is, what helped you have peace about undergoing surgery?
Yeah, that was a big struggle for me, especially with my background and being the one who's the cheerleader for mamas to heal themselves. I can't tell you how many moms I've given your website to, and I worked so hard. I had it a little bit after my first daughter, who's going to be 9, but it wasn't so bad, and I brought it back together to where I could do a plank, and there wasn't the belly, the sack of potatoes hanging. And then after my second daughter, it was just bad. I tried for over 3 years. I really, really tried hard. I got the superficial layer to squeeze my finger, which was awesome, but it was still a big gap at the navel, and it was very deep. So no matter what I did, the separation was like to my top knuckle. So it was really deep, and no matter how I engaged or what I did, it was hanging. My skin would really hang when I went into plank, no matter how hard I engaged my core muscles. I could feel my core muscles working. I was engaging them all the time. Wasn't doing the trick. I was throwing my back out a lot. And I was pretty nervous about the future, about, urinary or fecal incontinence and, prolapse and all of these things. Certain things would happen that would weird me out. And it was really hard. It took me it was 10 months when I had my first talk about the potential of surgery. And at first, actually, it was over a year that I was thinking about it and just kept trying myself. And then I had a consultation. Then I opted for the surgery, and I decided I was going to keep going. I was going to do the best that I could so I could draw my muscles as close together as possible before the surgery.
Right.
And that's what I did. And still, when I went in for surgery, I had a herniated belly button, and I thought I had a 2-centimeter gap, and it was quite deep. He said I had a 5-centimeter gap. And my surgeon is awesome. He's a fitness professional as well as a surgeon. He's he's not into just fixing moms and sending them on their way. He really wants people to be active and fit, and teaches in a gym on his spare time. And,
that's awesome. That is
great.
I need that guy's name.
Yeah. He's in Austin. We're in Austin, but yeah, he was really great. And the whole staff was very supportive, because I told them my fears. I felt like maybe I was a fraud being a yoga teacher who was opting to do this. I felt really a sense of shame. And then I started talking to my yoga friends about it, my yoga colleagues. I remember talking to my first friend about it, and I was afraid to admit that I was considering it. And she was so supportive. And then I talked to another friend, and she was so supportive. And every single person I talked to was so supportive. And they said, you have tried everything. If this is what is going to fix it, then do it. And so it was hard. I mean, for me, I didn't have a lot of excess skin. I didn't go in because I just wanted to zip up and tighten my skin up. So, that I had a whole new layer of I have a different scar because I didn't have enough skin to kind of pull all the way down when they were done with the stitching. And my stomach is stitched from, just above the pubic bone all the way up to almost my diaphragm.
If you feel comfortable showing, then that would be great. If not, that's fine too.
I don't think now would be a good time, only because I'm only about 3.5 months out. So it might really scare people when they the scar looks really dark, right? Well, the scar looks really dark, but it's going to lighten to just a little white line.
I think people like my crowd especially, they are always more in favor of being informed. But again, don't feel pressure if you don't want to.
So I have a new belly button. And then, they couldn't get they couldn't get that part all the way down. So I have that. And the scar is big. I mean, it goes from here. Can you see that?
Right. Yeah.
It goes from here all the way to here. It's much, much larger than a cesarean scar. And the reason why I'm kind of okay with it is the person that I saw the first time who referred me to this doctor. I saw her scar and it looked like a little tiny pencil mark on her skin.
Right.
And so when I've gone back for my post-op consultations, he kind of presses on the scar and it turns white when he does that. And he said, that's what it's going to end up looking like. But it takes about a year for that scar to fade.
Yeah.
So,
well, and that it's the same as, it's fascia, it's connective tissue. And that is what we're learning, is that it can take, once something's being held in place correctly, once there's the correct tension that's been established, then it takes about a year for the glue to really dry, is what I say. And I'm so glad you shared that. And part of the reason I'm glad is because I think a lot of women have the misconception that they are just going to go get the surgery and then it's going to be fine. And there is a recovery and there is healing that happens either way. But when there's a hernia, especially, and my suspicion is that herniated umbilical hernia that you were dealing with is probably what was preventing that ultimate healing from happening. Because when there's diastasis is a thinning and a stretching apart, but a hernia is a full-blown hole, and tension can't grab around that hole. And sometimes when the hernia is small, or it's in a good place, which, what's good? I don't know. How do we define that?
Right.
It's like a purse string happens as the diastasis closes, and the hernia will get smaller, and there can still be tension that can be held there. But in other cases, the hernia just really, it's a hole. So it can't grab and it can't pull. And I am in favor of women doing what they need to do to restore function in their bodies, but to not be under the illusion that they won't still need rehab and that they're going to instantly feel confident in a bikini a week after surgery.
Right. Yeah. I won't be wearing a bikini this year.
No, and now me, I'm like, oh, you should rock that thing and you should start conversations on the beach. But that's me. I mean, in your shoes, I probably would be feeling the same way. So tell us more a little bit about what was surgical recovery like? I mean, you said you're about 3.5 months out. So how have the last few months been for you?
It was so brutal. It was so brutal. The first couple of weeks, I was a mess, and I thought I'd be up and running. And we had just moved into a new neighborhood, and I wanted to go to this party we had up the street. And I show up like hobbling around, trying to not be on painkillers. And they're like, "You should go home." I'm like, "It's my first party on my street." But I was miserable. I didn't know how I was ever going to feel normal again. And I had to do the band again, the support band. I had to wear that for 6 weeks. And I was like, oh, this thing again. But then I went back in at 1 month for my post-op, and I'm sitting there feeling all fresh and great. And I see this poor girl hobbling out in her walker. I had to use a walker it was crazy. I had a walker. Your back is in so much pain because your back is compensating for what just happened in the front.
Well, and your transverse abs, the God-given girdle, you've just had that all rearranged.
Yeah, completely rearranged. And the back is just like, what just happened? And so you can't stand up straight. So you're walking down almost at like a 45-degree angle for a while with the walker. So at 1 month, I was feeling so much better. And I'm in my, I was just sitting there in the chair waiting for my post-op, all excited. And I see this poor girl walking out, and she's white as a ghost. And she's obviously on a lot of pain meds, and she's hobbling with her drain tubes. I had 2 drain tubes. That was also disgusting. You had to squeeze the fluid out twice a day. And so I see her with her drain tubes hobbling out, and I said, "It's going to be okay. Look at me." And I jumped out of the chair, and I put my arms over my head, and I did like a hop for her. And she just kind of turned and looked at me.
Like, shut up.
You give me hope. You give me hope. How far along are
good.
you? Yeah. And I said, I'm a month out. I'm a month, just a month. You're going to be okay. And she was like, "Thank you so much." Because she felt, and I knew how I felt her pain. I knew how she felt. It was awful. But yeah, after just a month, I was feeling good. And then he cleared me for exercise at 6 weeks.
Ooh.
And I wasn't ready at 6 weeks. I was like, "Oh, So I had surgery on October 10th, and I didn't start working out again until the new year, January.
Now when you say workout, because I love to clarify this, so like Fit2B, we have some really, really, really gentle things that people can, like, literally, we've been approved by surgeons to do just 10 days out, but I wouldn't define them as workouts. And for
Right.
those of you watching, there's actually a distinction on Fit2B that in my brain is really clear, but I've been told recently that I need to tell my members this because apparently you all can't read my brain. And that is that if something on Fit2B says routine, it's not necessarily a workout. It is something that you go through and you're learning motions that then you can apply as a routine into the rest of your life routine. If it says workout or it's just like the maternity mix or fusion mix, then that's going to be more of a workout. So we have like basic breath work routine, and we have the align it flat routine. And those are things that are, they're not really a workout. If you put them all together and do them all at once, then you're going to be breathing a little bit harder. But like, yeah, so when did you feel like you were able to return to doing yoga and kind of ease back into your regular personal practice?
Probably, well, as for routines, I did a few things, gentle things at about the 3-week mark. But yeah, I wouldn't call it working out at all. It was just gentle stretching of my psoas, really slow. I would do like a forward lunge, and I would just move my knee back and forth ever so slightly just to kind of open up my hip flexor. And then I would just kind of move my arms back and down, and like, just really slow stretches. I was stretching my back. I did a lot of meditation. That also helped me up to the surgery, just visualizing. I was in this meditation course, and I'll get back to the workout, I promise. But I this is important. I was in the meditation course, and as for feeling the shame, I was always really upset and frustrated about the fact that I had the diastasis. Why did this happen to me? I just wish that I didn't have to do this. I just wish that I didn't have this. And a lot of negative speak around the problem. And we were I was led through a guided meditation where we were kind of just blessing our bodies from the head all the way down, and, focusing on your psoas or your abdominal muscles wasn't part of it. But for me, it was, because I was about to go into surgery. So when I got to my abdominal muscles, instead of feeling shame and disappointment that mine split, I instead was grateful, and I kind of blessed my body in gratitude for the fact that my muscles were so strong before pregnancy, and that they stretched so far that everybody thought I was having twins or quadruplets. They stretched so far and came back, and then stretched again and came back. And I felt a sense of gratitude for my body being able to grow 2 beautiful girls. And I went down to my, like, the pelvic floor muscles, and I was like, wow, thank you you were able to birth 2 humongous babies. And so it shifted. And then in the healing process, I continued with the meditation, just visualizing the healing. And I feel like that's really important for anyone that would opt for that, or anybody that doesn't ever need surgery. Instead of feeling shame or disappointment that they have to modify and that they have to work for it, instead find the gratitude in the fact that you were able to have your body go through this, and now you have a tool. You do have modifications, and years ago we didn't. Now we know that you can do something to heal yourself. And so when I meant working out in the new year, I started doing regular yoga again, and my planks feel fine. There's nothing going on. I feel really strong. At first, I could only hold plank for about 5 seconds. And I think the longest I can hold plank now is about 30 seconds before I'm like, okay, I'm done here. But I weight training, just upright weight training mixed with yoga and a little bit of like mat Pilates once in a while. That's what I've been doing, and that's been really helping. It's
good.
Slow, and yeah.
I love what you said about, and it speaks to my next question too, of like, what would you tell a woman who's considering surgery? Like, she feels like she's tried everything, and you kind of spoke to it already. Got something on my head. Hope this does. You kind of spoke to it already, but just in terms of like, affirming your body and being grateful and knowing that you have done everything you can. And this isn't, I say, weakness or modifying and needing to care for your body, needing to do something for your body maybe you weren't anticipating. That's not a sign of weakness. That's a sign of wisdom.
Yeah.
And, you know, so like if you could set a woman down and give her a 1-minute pep talk, as she's really trying to make this decision about, oh, do I get surgery? Do I not get surgery? What would you say to her?
I would say do everything you possibly can first. And if she's already, I direct so many of my mamas to your website. And there's some local therapists in town that I've directed mamas to. Because I think getting to see somebody one-on-one is really awesome. Instead of checking yourself, I mean, I had learned to check myself after my first child, and I was really incorrect after my second. I checked, and my gap was actually so wide that I didn't feel it at all. So I thought I was fine. So I jumped back into a hardcore workout after baby number 2. It wasn't until 7.5 months of doing workouts and wondering why everything was kind of falling apart that I went and saw a professional who said, oh no, you've got a 4-centimeter gap here and it's quite deep. And I was like, oh. So I would say, you know, do everything you can, see a therapist, do the tummy safe workouts. And if they don't come back and you're really uncomfortable and it's really something, you know, have a consultation next and then consider it. And, but go into it strong and grateful, I would say. And just
such wise words.
Thanks.
So you're saying that you still see abdominal rehab as being crucial, whether they get rehab or not.
Yeah, definitely.
Because and I don't wholeheartedly agree.
You don't want to just jump back in. I was told you can do everything. And that made me feel a little bit nervous. So I still, I haven't done any crunches. Actually I did some crunches the other day with my husband, and I had my hands crisscrossed and I was pulling my abdominals towards the center, carefully going up. He says, you still have to do that? I thought you don't have to do that anymore. I'm like, oh, I don't feel comfortable just going straight in and doing crunches. So I only did a few, and I just did them really, carefully like that.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, I think, I just personally don't feel comfortable, and I would recommend that you do what's safe. I still go on my back and do the transverse work, and I'm still a little bit numb and a little bit swollen as well. So I can feel my transverse abdominis, but it's weird. I can't feel when I touch my skin. I don't really feel that on my skin. I feel it more inside of my body.
So your surgeon didn't prescribe any rehab after surgery?
No.
And so, yeah, you know what, I feel like they should hand you a packet after surgery. They give you the binder or the splint, and they should write you a prescription to go see somebody local. And they should, provide you with some instruction on abdominal massage and how to, bring sensation back to that area. Because it's just such a missing link. And so you and all of your knowledge and everything that you know and all your body awareness, you knew that you can't necessarily just jump straight in and that you might need some rehab. But you and I'm not saying we're better than everybody, but we know all these things. What about the woman who doesn't? So they don't know about rehab, and they get the surgery, and now they've got this wound that's healing, and they're 3.5 months out, and they've been told, well, you should be able to do everything, and they can't. What I see is a lot of times when they don't have that rehab piece after surgery, their stitches come back apart and they end up having more problems down the road. It's really freaky.
They were, they know my background. I don't know what they do with everybody else. They might have, I would geek out about this every single visit. I was going in every week or two, asking exactly what I could do, telling them exactly what I was doing and what I was planning on doing, and talking about the massaging. And so I don't know if that's something that they just felt that
you didn't need because you were educated.
I don't know if they do that with other people or not, but they did say to take it slow and obviously don't do anything that doesn't feel right. And told me certain things, not to do, but said, you're good to go. Just listen to your body.
Yeah, and you're right. It's like, but from what I hear, talking with thousands of women around the world, the typical thing, and I know there is a shift happening with some surgeons where they will prescribe rehab. But the typical thing is they do the surgery and tell them to take it easy for 6 weeks, and then they release them for exercise. And it's, yeah, it's so then
that would be a huge missing link. That would be a really great thing for the surgeons to do, is to start prescribing rehab. Yeah, I hadn't ever thought of it like that.
Well, and now with the advent of online stuff, you know, even for women who are more rural, there are some great online programs like through the Tummy Team. She just came out with the Floor of Your Core, which is an 8-week program that takes you through pelvic floor and core integration. And she also now has a surgery prep course that is specifically for people who are facing abdominal surgery, so they can get their core ready. And then there's some things they do after the surgery. So there's a lot of great options, but it's almost like the surgeons don't know. It's really fascinating to me.
I don't know that they do. And the OBs, I mean, it's the OB's responsibility to educate their patients about this during pregnancy, and that's not happening. I went into my OB for 2.5 years complaining about pelvic floor stuff, and it was my Yoga Mama group that finally referred me to a physical therapist. And after 2.5 years, I healed my pelvic floor, but I was in pain and uncomfortable for 2.5 years before that.
I had the same experience. My OB, his thing was, well, you know, you had a 3rd-degree tear and it was kind of like a patchwork quilt down there. And, you know, here's some estrogen cream.
Right.
That was the extent of it. And, you know, hey, when you're done having kids, we can do some vaginal reconstruction. And I was like, well, but I don't, what?
Wow.
I don't think I need, what? Is it that bad down there? I'm like asking my husband,
wow.
And he's like, I don't know, I think it's probably fine. But it was like, there just was not a sense of hope, and there was not a sense of direction. And I confess, I have talked to quite a few OBs and midwives over the past years about, hey, you know what, just this one piece of information. If you don't feel comfortable giving women a few things, then at least refer them to a physical therapist. Like, just do that. Oh, okay. And so, but I have been afraid to go back to my own OB because I'm a little worried I'm going to want to smack him.
Yeah, I
like,
switched.
It's not personal with any of the other people I've talked to, but my own OB, I'd be like,
yeah, I got a midwife for my second. It was a whole different experience.
Oh, it is. It's huge.
Yeah.
So how do you think that, you know, you're an instructor, and so your own experience, how has this experience changed the way that you teach?
Well, I'm doing a whole lot less plank in class.
Right? We're going to side plank.
Yeah, I am doing a whole lot less plank. You know, I used to just let moms do what felt good. And because my own experience was that I wanted to keep my practice up in my pregnancy, and I felt strong enough that when I was in plank, I could engage my core. I actually did a video of myself at 38 weeks watching my stomach fall. I would say, look, I'm releasing my abdominal muscles, and I let it drop. And then I was like, and now I'm going to pull them in. And they would pull up. And then I kept doing it. And I thought this was so cool. And now looking back at that video, I'm like, oh my God, you're just tearing your muscles while you're doing that. And I would do plank. I mean, I kept my flow practice, and I would hold plank and do downward dog to plank and downward dog to plank. And
it felt good. And it felt good.
It felt good. I felt like I was strong. I was helping my arms, you know. I would do a lot of stuff on hands and knees, feeling like, oh, this is really safe. And I would help moms protect their wrists, but I wasn't really thinking, and I would remind them to engage their core to draw baby up towards their spine. But I'm eliminating a lot of that and doing it for a short time, no planks, but keeping more upright work. And then even adding a little bit of weights in, doing a lot more chair pose where your arms are up and you're engaging your transverse abdominis, and stepping back into a lunge and then coming back to chair pose and doing more things like that. If they want a more rigorous, you know, practice during pregnancy. And some people just want to completely relax and open and stretch. But most of my students want to feel like they're getting a little bit of a workout in, even though,
Yeah.
you know, yoga is a little bit more for, you know, if you want to work out, I feel like you should go to the gym and lift weights. But, and if you do yoga, you know, yoga is so great because you're stretching one side while you're engaging the other side. So you're able to do them both. And that's the whole,
Right.
you
It's
know,
that's one of the things I love the most about it is it's like it takes muscle to get into the stretch unless you're doing restorative more,
yeah.
which I also love. But you know, do you ever feel like you see an advertisement for a local prenatal yoga class and you're like, because I know for me when I look at those and every time I investigate them, really they haven't changed much except for adding some verbiage about about the baby in their belly and some visualization for the birth, and there's not really a lot of changes made usually.
We need more prenatal yoga. There's where I currently live, I'm the only prenatal yoga teacher in this area. But where I used to teach in town, um, they're really good. So the classes that I went to were all really good and really safe. And
Good.
actually, a really good friend of mine is one of the lead prenatal yoga teachers at the studio that I was at. She teaches prenatal to teachers in the
Yeah.
prenatal teacher training, and so it was, you know, she does a lot more upright stuff, and
Good.
it was really good. But you know, I think the thing that makes me cringe a little bit more are the boot camps for the mamas, the mama
Yeah.
boot camps afterwards, and none of them have a clue about diastasis, and that's something that's
Hmm.
really hard. I mean, I think it needs to be talked about in prenatal yoga, obviously, but it really, really needs to be talked about afterwards as well. And they should know how to check. They should know about diastasis. They should know how to check for it. And they should check their mamas before they're doing burpees and push-ups with them.
Well, and you know, somebody recently asked me, she's like, so you check tummy, so you're allowed to do that? And I was like, well, here's what's interesting. As a fitness practitioner and yoga, we are trained, and that's part of what we do. My lead instructor was like Mickey Mouse hands. You know, if you're in a place in the body where like the hips or the thumb, you do Mickey Mouse hands.
Mhm.
But it's like we have our hands on our students a lot, and they really trust us for that. And even then I still ask, is it okay if I, you know, they said
Right.
they want me to check their tummies. I still even ask them as they're lifting their shirt and laying on the ground, is it okay if I check your tummy?
Yeah.
And I usually will touch their shoulder or their knee before they even go to the belly because it is an intimate place.
Mm.
But it's like it's almost expected, you know, even weight training as a personal trainer, you know, you're spotting people, you've got your hands on them. So why this is just one more piece of that. We do fitness assessments. We're pinching their skin for body fat measurements with calipers. Why are we not also checking for diastases during those initial fitness assessments when people join a gym? Like this should be, in my mind, it should be SOP, standard operating procedures.
Yeah.
It should just be part of the PARQ physical activity readiness questionnaire. It should be on all the things, but it's not. And I'm not sure why. I know the conversation is starting to break wide open, and I'm curious though, because there's going to be a lot of discussion about what's the right way to check, and it's gonna still take, I think, another 10 years before it really becomes as mainstream as it should be, which is it's hard. So I'm like, okay, in my corner we've got it, and I just want to share that with other people, right? So I get
Yeah.
excited with other instructors who are bringing that awareness into their class. Do you get the chance to work with other instructors very much? And if so, like if, again, the 1 minute pep talk, like what do you say to other instructors who you talk to about this?
Yeah, I would say the same thing. I would say just check everybody, just err on the side of caution. I think the mistake that I made before was saying, if you'd like me to check, I can check. And we're going to
Oh,
go ahead. And if you feel like you might have a separation, then if we're going to do some crunches, let's crisscross our hands, you know, and after the fact, every woman should be checked. So if that means arriving to class early,
mhm.
then that's what should be done, but they should all be checked. And then when I check, and people can do this as well, because I'm not a physical therapist.
Right.
So I will check and I'll let them know what I think. And I let them know I'm not a physical therapist, but I will
Yeah.
check. And and if I feel something that feels like a separation, I say you should get that checked out with a professional.
Yeah, exactly. And I do the same thing. It's, when I go talk to groups, I'm like, okay, I can provide tummy checks, but just so you know, I'm not a physical therapist. I can't officially fully diagnose you, but I can say, yeah, there's something going on here. I think you might be at about a 2 and kind of shallow, but again, fitness practitioner, not rehab specialist. So I write down what I'm like, estimate. This is my estimate.
Mm-hmm.
Because even I have been off. I've gotten better at it over the years. But, Kelly at the tummy team, there in her clinic, she sees 6 to 8 patients a day. So thousands of bellies. And she knows all the details and what to look like. And she can test for tension and test for all that. And you're going to get such a better measure. Plus, it's like a physical therapist is going to have you stand up and have you sit down. They're going to be looking at your posture. They're going to be looking at your breathing patterns. And they're going to be able to tailor something directly to where you're at. And that's not
so
something
great.
we can cover in a group setting. And it's not something I can cover through video. I'm like, I wish I could reach through.
Yeah. I wish I had more hands-on therapy before surgery, right after baby. I mean, I wish I would have known a lot right after I had, maybe I could have brought it back. I don't know, but I know that I did what I could do with the resources that I had.
Mm-hmm.
But I love to find out. I know there's a physical therapist, excuse me, who specializes in this in Austin, and she's tuned in today.
Awesome. Well, like several of my colleagues like to say, it's like we know what we know until we know better, and we do our best with it.
I like that.
And I personally, I don't believe God ever wastes a hurt. I mean, I'm not going to try to get all religious on people here, but it's like our story has a purpose, and what we have been led through, when we turn around and we help others go through it or not go through it, when we help them to avoid it because we know something that they don't know, that is what creates community and relationship and real growth in people's lives. And that's a huge part of my mission, is like, okay, using what I've been through to help others in a professional way.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously not everybody who's had diastasis and had surgery is qualified to help others. So when somebody is in a setting where, like you can teach to people and you're qualified to teach, it's exciting because it's like, yay, there's one more person who's impacting her community. And so it's been great to talk to you.
Yay. Thank you.
Do you have any closing thoughts?
Well, I would like anybody watching to just help us spread the word and talk about it, and talk to your OB about it. If you have a surgeon, let's just keep this conversation going and get the word out more and more, because eventually if we keep doing that, then maybe it will become the norm.
Yeah.
I hope that it will. I have, I would love to take this up a level.
Yeah. And if we can, getting into our local communities, like this last week, I had the chance to go talk to my kids' school, and they're doing a Japan unit study. And I told the teacher, I was like, hey, I could talk about squatting because the Asian squat is really common, but we don't use it here in America very much. And but we can teach these kids. And so I had them taking off their shoes and looking at their heels and using blocks underneath their heels and talking about how, how can squatting even save your life? And they're like, what? And we talked about how you can get down and get back up, and how it helps mamas give birth a little bit better if they can get into a good deep squat, and it can actually maybe even save the mom's life if she can birth better. And it was such cute conversations with these kids. And I got a text from another mom who I've just been getting to know. But her daughter is friends with my son, and she texts me and she's like, Carly came home and taught the whole family how to squat, and it was so cute.
Aww.
And it's like, yeah, so if we can volunteer our time, but also open those conversations and not be afraid to talk about what we've been through, not be afraid to show our scars. And I'm so glad you did that. That was really brave of you. And I know that it means a lot to the women who are watching that you did that, and that you we're courageous enough to just show that, because they have questions and they want answers, and people aren't talking. And so we have to have these conversations.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you so much for your website and all that you're doing. I think it's really, really awesome. And I'm so
Yeah,
happy to finally meet you.
I know. So tell us really quick though, in closing, how people can get a hold of you, your
My
contact information.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. My website is hannahwilliamsyoga.com. It's HANNAH and then Williams with an S yoga.com. And you can email me from there. I've got a ton of different links. I have a resource page. I'm always updating. Yeah, that's how.
Awesome. Awesome. Well,
Thanks for
thank you for
having me.
joining us.
Thank you so much
I
for
am
having
blessed by
me.
it. Yeah. Have a great day, Hannah.
You
Bye,
too.
everybody.
Bye.